Hello everyone and welcome back to Priest Brothers Lines. Here we are working on our beach scene. So I have put some joint compound down. That's what I used here. I know there's other products you can use, but this is already pre-mixed and it makes it a lot easier. Although I have noticed that this is much more likely to crack. So I did this yesterday and I came down today only to find that there were big cracks where there were buildups. So I was hoping to paint today, but it looks like I'm gonna have to fill in those cracks. And did it all the way down there. And there's still cracks down there. So the idea here, and we'll see how this turns out, is that this area here will be like waves coming in. And then right about here where I have this buildup right here, it'll stop. Because otherwise the water would go all the way down there and I don't want that to happen. So it'll just be the water right here. I'll build this up. There'll be a barrier here. And then that's where the water will stop. So I'll be able to fill in this whole area with the water. And then further down there, I'm not exactly sure if I'll just have it be dirt or maybe I'll have it be sand. There may be a little residual water. Not quite sure. But we'll see how that turns out. But I was hoping to do some painting today, but it looks like I'll just have to fill in those cracks. So what I have done so far, however, is painted this part. This it's called light mocha, which is kind of a sandy color. And so I'll paint that down here, and then I'll paint bluish, like dark gray bluish over here. And we will see how that turns out. But for now I got to fill in all these cracks and basically wait another day. So no painting today, but we'll come back when I am ready to paint. Alright, let's try this again then. So I have filled in all those cracks that formed and let it dry. And now we are ready to paint. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do the sand color up to the ridge there. And then I'll do kind of like a bluish gray color in the ocean. Let's go ahead and do it. Alright, so I have painted everything as of right now. So I did the bank there where it comes down, and then I painted all this like a grayish blue. I just kind of mixed together, that's cobalt blue there, that's country gray, and then just a white and a black, just to get kind of a darkish grayish blue. And I had to do several different mixes, so there's a slightly variation in color. You can see where it's kind of darker, where it's a little more gray, where it's a little more blue. So I don't really know how it's going to turn out, but we'll see. And then along the edges here, I kind of stippled a little bit just to make it so that it wasn't a solid line. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm not exactly sure. Again, this is the first time I've ever done this, so I don't quite know what I'm doing, but we'll see how it turns out. And then there'll be this hump right here. I might put rocks on there. I haven't decided yet. But the water will stop there. It'll be stopped by this little hump right there. And the water line will go slightly above where the blue and the tan meet. And so that'll kind of make it look where the coast is. So I just got to let this dry, and then I can start putting sand down. So that is the next step, letting all this dry. Then I'll start putting the sand down. So we'll wait for it to dry. So here's what I've done so far. So I used a mixture of two different types of grout. I used like a yellowish brown, like a tan type of grout, and then a white grout to get this beach color. And I went pretty light because in some of the tests that I've done, I've noticed that every time I would put the isopropyl alcohol and the glue on the sand, it would get darker. So I went pretty light, knowing that it would go dark. And then what I did was I took a little brush like this and just kind of put little patterns in the sand as there would be people walking around. So there's going to be people here, there's going to be people in the water, I hope. There'll be people on the sand with blankets and such, and so I'll just kind of place those people strategically where they make sense, where all the feet patterns are in the sand, because it shouldn't be just all steady as people are walking through it. And then down here, so we got the water, And when I put the grout in, it was very dusty, like really, really dusty. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that. So it basically got everywhere. So it got on the water here too. But it kind of worked out. I was able to brush and or vacuum most of it away. But on the edges, I kind of left it a little more to aid in that illusion of transition. So that's what I'm going for. I also added these rocks here as kind of a barrier for where the water will go over there. We'll see how that works out. And so now it's time to glue this all down. So I'm going to spray the isopropyl alcohol, which acts as the wetting agent. And then I'm going to spray some glue on there. And we'll see how it all turns out. All right, so we waited a little bit. And the glue, I think, is all dry now. And so a lot of those marks that I made, they're less visible, but you can still see them there. They're not as pronounced. So if I were to do this again, I would have been a little more aggressive, because when I sprayed the alcohol and the glue, it kind of leveled it out a little bit, but you can still see along there very obviously the footprints and whatnot. So I would have liked to have it be a little more agitated over here, but that's okay. I also added these rocks. This is just a talus. So this is some talus you can get at your hobby shop. It is rock debris coarse natural. I thought it would look nice for a coast. And so I just lined the parking lot with that, and then also lined the tracks there with it, kind of making a barrier as to where the public beach ends. Because I'm going to do more of this fencing here, and that's going to go on this side of the rocks, just to add a extra layer of barrier for the train tracks, just for like safety. So there'll be more no trespassing signs and things like that. And then that'll kind of curve around here, just like there. And so that is where the water will end. So the water will go right up to the rocks here, somewhere around there, and it'll go up. So that's really the next step. I'm just going to wait for everything to dry here, make sure that all this water is all cleared off. I'll blow it off with my air compressor, and then dam up the side of the wall here and get the resin, the scary part. That's going to be very interesting, but that is the next piece. I'm really happy with the way the sand turned out. I was a little concerned at first, but yeah, you can see all like the little footprints and whatnot. So when I get some beach figures, I'll put them down like at the end of these trails to make it look like that's where they walked. So it should be fun. Although I do need to wait for those beach figures, because I do want to put some people in the water as if they're swimming. So those are in the mail. I think it's supposed to get here next week. So it'll be a few days for me to do that part, but it'll be very quick for you. It should be the next thing you see. I've made some progress here. So I've added the fence. I've added some signs. So again, the same fence that I've been doing over there. They're just matchsticks that I drilled some holes in, and I did the same fencing that I did with the wire, 32 gauge wire, spun it in my drill, and kind of made it look like barbed wire. I added these signs as well. So this is going to be called Providence Beach, named after my grandma, one of my other grandmas. So I got Charlotte Station, Clyde Yard, and now this beach is named after Providence, my grandma. So we got the no littering sign, and then we got the fence that goes all the way across where the rocks are, and then comes over here and ends where the water will come down. And I added some more signs here, no trespassing signs. The idea is that the beach ends here, and that's just kind of railroad property where they don't want people getting too close to the tracks, to the trains. And so I added all this just to add some space between the tracks and the beach. And all of the feet prints are still looking up pretty decently. So really now the next step is the water. So I just need to wait for those figures to arrive in the mail. And then I can kind of just glue them down into here and then pour the water over them. So that's what I'm waiting for. So it's turning out pretty nicely. It's kind of funny to see just like this beach right next to these red rocks. I don't know if that exists in nature ever, but it's okay. It's for fun, and it's really the only way I could kind of fit all these different sceneries into my layout. So I'm just having fun with it. I'm not too concerned about the realism of the habitats. So just waiting for those figures, and then we'll pour some water. Alright, so I have dammed up the sides of the layout here, ready to pour the water. I also bought some little beach figures. I painted them to look a little different because they were pretty cheap looking. So I added some faces, some lips to some degree. And some of them I've glued into the water, like this woman here. She'll just be getting a wave. This guy here, he'll kind of be standing on the edge. I cut the legs off this guy here to make him look like he's deeper. Same thing with this woman here. And then this man here, I glued him down there so it'll look like he's swimming, I hope. I hope it doesn't look like he's just floating in the water dead. I'm really hoping that's not what it looks like, but we will find out. And then with this woman here, same thing. And all these people are just kind of laid out for right now. I'm not going to worry about gluing them into place until the water is all settled. So now comes the dangerous part. So I used tape to tape up all the edges there. I also used wood glue along where the tape meets the wood. Try to add another barrier so that there shouldn't be any leakage. But we will find out. This is the scary part, guys. Let's see how it goes. So I gotta mix the water, mix the colors, and then we'll get to pouring. Let's have at it. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and try. I've mixed up the colors, and I kind of got this light blue looking color. I don't know if it's going to be dark enough, but I'm going to start to pour and see what happens. So here we go. Alright, so that's cup one. I have a second cup here. I feel like I should have made the water darker. Alright, so I've covered almost all the water now. I want to try to get that coastline going. And from what I've read, this stuff does level itself out. I can see it moving. I don't see any leaking so far, so that's good news. But it's definitely moving that way, which tells me that the table is not level. The tape is starting to bend back, but it's not coming undone. Gosh, this is frightening. Alright, I still have water left, but I think I'm going to stop pouring. It's funny, the coloring underneath is not as pronounced as I thought it would be. I guess the coloring in the water really overpowers that. But I can hardly see the color underneath. Pour some more here. I feel like it's not as thick here. Again, that could be because the table is somewhat leaning that way. So that could explain that. Oh, I hear drips. Only one. Oh, there's another drip. Okay. I think it's happening under the table, maybe? Alright, I'm going to pause here and see what's going on. Alright, we're back, and I had a major disaster, which I'm kind of happy I didn't catch on film, but then again, I'm kind of not happy because it was really embarrassing. I was looking at the leaks, I saw some drips, and so I had the tape, and I was getting some tape underneath the table because where the 1x3s where it met the plywood wasn't a perfect seal, and so it was starting to drip underneath the table. And so as I was trying to plug that up with tape, I see the dam of tape here begin to bow out and then completely come off, and all of this just fell to the ground. Like, most of the water just fell all the way to the ground, and it was an absolute mess. And so that's dripping down, and I'm over here desperately trying to keep the tape together to stop the rest of it, of the water from falling. And then, I'm over here, and I've got just resin all over my hands. I still do. It's like I got skin that needs to be peeled off. And I'm over here holding it back, trying to figure out what to do, trying to get some tape to kind of make another wall, and then the power goes off. I hear a boom in the distance, and all the lights go off. And so here I am, standing in the dark, like pitch dark, just like saying, help. And a few minutes go by, and the power does come back on, and because of that, my wife comes down to the garage, and she's able to help me, and we make about 5 more passes of tape with the dam here. So, yeah, that was fun, but I did learn a few things that I probably should have known already. One, I should have done several passes with the tape. So if you're going to do the tape method like this, I highly recommend do 2 or 3 passes with the tape. Because it's not that it came unstuck, it's that the water was so heavy that it pushed the tape over. So a few more layers of tape probably would have made that better. Second, the table was unlevel because it was all just kind of pouring this way, which I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but there's a lot more water here than there is over here, so that it did come this way. But I probably put too much water also. I think the bottle says 1/8 of an inch, and I probably put more than that in, and so that contributed to all the weight. So if I were to go back to the beginning of this video and tell past me some things, one would have been just do enough just to cover 1 layer and then do a second layer, and 2 would have been to do a few more passes of tape to make it stronger. So here I am now. Most of the water is now in paper towels in the trash, and so I'm just going to wait for this to dry. I'm hoping that once what is here dries, all the gaps, all the holes will be filled in because they're full of dried resin now, and then I can do a second layer to kind of fill in over there a little bit more. That's what I'm hoping to do. We'll see how that all turns out. But I gotta say, I was pretty disappointed seeing all that water just fall to the ground and being covered on my hand, and yeah, that was pretty sad. So that's the moral here, is be sure that your walls are dammed very well, and do it in small layers. I've seen some people use like plexiglass along the edge, And that makes sense if it's a small edge, but I got a pretty long edge here and don't exactly have small pieces of plexiglass just to like glue along the walls there. So that's why I did this. So I suppose we'll come back after this is all dried, give it a good 24 hours to dry, and then pour a second layer on top. Not a lot, because I don't have a lot of water left. I used most of it, and most of it fell to the ground. But I'll do another layer and just kind of do it in that corner over there. And it'll still seep this way, I'm sure. But just to kind of fill in a little bit more over there. We'll see how it looks once it's all dried. But yeah, quite the adventure, just being in the garage, in the dark, trying to hold back this this wave from falling on the ground. That was... I wish I got it on camera, but then I'm kind of glad I didn't. So we'll see what happens next. Alright, it is the next day. I've mixed up another batch here, tried to make it a little bit darker. Everything is dried. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to start over here in this corner and go from here. Let's see what happens. This is supposed to all like level off, so I'm gonna kind of help it. Just get some coverage. I'm hoping that now that that first layer has dried, that it kind of has sealed all of the holes, all the potential leaks. But that's all taken care of now, so everything should be sealed. I mainly just wanted to focus on this area over here since that really didn't get a whole lot of coverage. Like, it's pretty thick over here, like deep over here, so I'm okay with that. So I'm kind of okay that it's not kind of all spewing around. I do have a little bit more water left. I think I'm going to go mix that up just to kind of blend in a little bit better, so I'll be right back. Alright, so I poured a few more of the resin here, kind of just concentrating it over here, and now I'm just going to use the stick here to kind of fill in any gap spots. I've used all my water, so I don't have any more, so it is what it is now. So I didn't get it at all over here, which is kind of what I was going for, because it already looks pretty decent over here. So what I want to try to do is just kind of bring it towards this way so that it, because you can see through like to the bottom there, so you can see how shallow it is, which is kind of what I'm going for, that this is like a shallow area, and it obviously gets deeper over here because it's further away from the shore. So I'm just going to try to work this down a little bit, just along the edge there, but then get it to where the coast has less of this new water. And again, this area, you know, even though you can see down, it's okay because it's all going to be covered. I'm going to use silicone to fill in, to make it look like waves, or ripples, I guess, and then I'll have actual, like, doing waves as well going along the coast, so a lot of the imperfections, you won't even see it once it's all done. And this will still be moving slightly. Yeah, this is what I should have done in the first place. I put way too much water the first time. That was my problem. I should have done like half the water that I did the first time, just because it was too much for the tape to hold up. So, lesson learned. And anyone who was thinking of doing a water scene, definitely go smaller than you think and tape up really well. So, I think I'm done now. And there's a lot of bubbles here, but most of them should pop on their own. And even if they don't, again, this is going to be covered. The whole water here will be covered with silicone, which will make it look like waves and will cover up a lot of the imperfections. Like right here, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there you can see kind of below where I was, where the paint was down there. But that's okay. Once the silicone's on there, it'll hide it much better. And once this dries too, it'll look a little different. But maybe it'll look like deeper spots. I don't know. We'll see how that looks. So I'm gonna let that dry again another 24 hours, and we will see what it looks like tomorrow. Alright, it is the next day. Water is all dried, and now it's time to peel the tape off. So let's see how this all went. Later, after the disaster. There we go. This is still kind of wet down here. Gosh, it's been a long time, you know, maybe I should wait another day. That's still somewhat wet. Crap. Okay, well, guess I'm not working on this today. Alright, so I'm finding it's still a little bit wet over here because it got pretty thick down there just because something's not level here, so everything just kind of went further this way. So I'm gonna wait another day or two just to make sure that's all dry because it was still a little jelly. Like, it wasn't liquidy anymore, but it was still a little too jelly, and I'm just gonna leave it taped back because it was a little sticky still. So wait another few days for that, but in the meantime, I can at least work over here. So there's a bit of a lip right here, so I can cut that off with a knife, and then I can start to put the waves over here. At least I can get this area done since I was able to get that done. So that's what I'm going to do right now, is just cut the little lip off. Alright, so I've trimmed the lip over here a little bit, and now I'm going to start adding the ripples. So this is just it's a sealant. It's just like a clear sealant like silicone. You can use silicone. This, whatever I'm using, it says it's better than silicone because it doesn't yellow at all. So I'm just going to get this and just kind of plop it on the water there and make it look like ripples. That's all I'm going to do. There's really, I mean, I've never done this before, so I'm assuming maybe there's a technique. I don't know. I'm new to this, so I'm just going to do it and see what happens. So to give you an idea of what I'm doing here is I'm just putting the stuff down and just figuring out where the coast is and just kind of making waves going towards the coast. So I just kind of start in this corner here and I'm just going towards the coast. So I just get a clump of this stuff, just splotch it down, kind of fill it in, and then go the angle where the coast is. That's really all I'm doing here. And just keep going the same way. It's like when you learn how to color. You color in the same direction. Otherwise it looks like it's going all over the place. And so I'll bring this up to the coastline, and then it'll kind of look like a wave. At least that's what I'm hoping. Just gotta fill in. So yeah, I'm just getting big globs of this stuff. Oh, jeez. There we go. I feel like Egon Spengler over here collects spores, molds, and fungus. If you get that Ghostbusters reference. It is getting close to Halloween, so why not? So that's all I'm doing here is just splotching it down and making it all go in a similar direction. And it'll dry and it'll kind of look like ripples. And we'll go from there. Maybe I'll do another layer. Maybe make it more wave-like. I don't know. I saw someone who got just like a big tube of this and just poured it all down and formed waves with his hands. I don't think I'll be able to do that just because it is such a narrow area. I don't think full-on waves would actually be this close to shore for the scale. Alright, so we're getting some progress there. You can see it looks like ripples there compared to the smooth here. And so I'm just bringing it up to the coastline. And then that'll all be painted and kind of putting it around the people who are in the water, like the woman there, putting that by her legs, and I'll add foam around there. And then the man swimming over here, kind of put that on top of him, make it look like he's going under the water, and again I'll add foam and stuff there where it makes sense. So I think that's coming along. The nice thing about doing this is that it kind of hides any of the imperfections that may occur when you're doing the water, like bubbles, or like in my case, how it wasn't, how the water was unlevel. There really wasn't much water on this side over here. But what's kind of neat is that the color variations do show through a little bit, so you can see it's kind of darker there in the middle of the screen, and that may indicate maybe something under there, or just a deeper area. So I think it's turned out alright when you just compare it to right down here. And there's a bunch of bubbles. I don't know if they show up on the camera, but there's tons of bubbles. Yeah, you can see them there. Right along here, a lot of bubbles. So those will all be hidden once all this stuff is put down. So I'll just continue doing that and get the rest of it going along the edge here. So I've made some more progress here. I've also added some things, as you can see. So just aside from the water, I made these towels, and I made a beach umbrella. And so the towels are just little patches of cloth that I painted and then glued down, and I put the little figures on them and just painted them different designs, different colors, just having some fun with that. And then little umbrellas, those are like little cocktail drink umbrellas that work decently for O scale. They may be a little oversized, but people have big umbrellas at the beach, so it works out. So I just painted those, I spray painted those white as a coating, and then I've done one. I have a few others that I'll be preparing here very shortly. So that's something else that I've done, just to add some pizzazz here. I've completed covering up the water over here, again using that same material. I was doing like a streak motion like this, but then I started looking at the ocean when it comes to the coast, and it doesn't look like that at all. It's even more like horizontal or just kind of swirly. So I stopped doing that, and when I came over here, just kind of like made it a little more swirly, a little more horizontal, and try to cover that up over here just to make it match a bit. And then what I did was the stuff that I'm using, whether you're using silicone or the stuff that I'm using, it dries fast, but it's also pretty thick. So let me see if I can zoom in here. I'm trying to make waves. You can see right there. Just kind of built it up. So I just put a bead of it right here, and then just kind of built it up a little bit, and just, like, it dries pretty fast. And I'm just using my finger with a glove, and I'm just kind of building it up a little bit, just like this, making it thinner and taller. And then once it's all dry, then I'll color it. I'll paint it a white color to make it look like the white foam from water. So this is getting close to dry. It's pretty stiff, so I shouldn't need to do this much more. Just kind of getting it to stand up a little bit. So I did it a few other places too. And so I'm just going to let all this dry now, and then I'll be able to paint it. The white frothy, I'll have that along the coast too, where the water meets the sand. Again, just looking at pictures is so useful, because again, I was, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it makes sense that the water would be going forward, but that's probably more so like a river, not the beach like this. So I changed change it up. So looking at pictures, looking at actual photos and videos of beaches really helped me figure out how to do that best. So just going to wait on that to dry now. And you can see I did that all the way down here. Got some beach figures here. And so I'm making the umbrellas. And we're getting close to done over here. I'm just going to add those few more umbrellas. And then I'll be able to paint where the white frothy foam would be. And we'll basically be done. I also removed the tape along the edge here. This is all dried now. It's been about another week since I first poured. And just those thicker areas took a lot longer to dry. But that is all done now. And so I can move on to the white paint for the frothiness. So I am starting to add the foamy water. You can see I've added some more umbrellas as well. So what I did here was I got some glossy glossy Mod Podge. Sorry, Mod Podge. Bought some glossy Mod Podge. And I've seen some people mix Woodland Scenic Snow with it. I didn't have Woodland Scenic Snow, so I had white grout. So I used white grout and just mixed it in there. Mix some white paint as well, just to make it white. And now I'm just going along. So on top of that wave there, I just kind of stippled it on. And around the people, same thing. Just kind of keeping an idea of where the water is flowing. In this case, I'm assuming the water is flowing towards the beach. And so I'm going to keep that up along the way so that the water would be hitting the people on this side over here, and then would be tapering off on that side. So that's what I'm going to keep going here. So I'll show you what I'm doing here. So right over here. So along the beach, I'm just getting some of this and just kind of plopping it down here. And then I'll kind of pull it a little bit. And then once it's kind of pulled, just make sure that it is kind of thicker towards the coastline there. And then once I've done that, I'll just kind of splatter it down like this. My brush. And just doing that. And that's all I'm doing, just to get that like frothy look of the wave. Let me pull this out a little bit more. And then with this guy over here, is he in the picture? Yes, he is. I should just flip this. There we go. This is really unprofessional video. I'm sorry, everyone. Alright, so the guy right here, again, the idea is that the water is coming away. So that means it would hit him right about here, around his backside here. And then it would float around on that side, it would float around on that side. I have too much on here. There we go. And then I'll just kind of stipple it here as it's hitting his body, maybe work it up a little bit. And then work it around. And just kind of lightly pull it. And stipple it. Stipple a little more. There we go. So that is all that I'm doing here. You probably can't see what I'm doing, my hand's in the way. But that is all that I am doing there. I'm just tapering it off a little further away. Okay. It's probably a little too much there, but it's okay. Let's see if I can just kind of lighten it up a little bit as it goes away. Alright, there we go. Looks like he's sloshing around there, but the water hit him as well. And we'll do the same over here by this woman down here. There we go. So, just gonna keep going along the coast here. And this is drying now, but it's getting a little thicker. So just gonna bring this out. Get on the coast there a little bit more. Get that stippling there. Kind of want to cover up all the coastline. This is where a lot of your mistakes kind of disappear from underneath. Alright, so I've built up that gel there a little by her feet, so it makes it easier just to add some of that frothiness here, make it a little thicker. There we go. Be sure to get on the sides too. I got that a little on her leg there. I don't know, probably can't see it's on the other side, so I'm just going to build that up a little bit. There we go. And just stipple. Yeah, definitely try to use less if possible. Because if you add too much, it starts to not look right. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to do. Just keep going down the line here. Doing that same thing, just stippling along the edge, kind of pulling it a little bit. And then stippling to get rid of any brush strokes. Alright, well, I think I am done. It's not the prettiest job. There's certainly better beach scenes out there on YouTube, so please go and check them out. But I think I did a decent job for my first time here. So we got the people sunbathing, or I guess in this case under the umbrella. Got the water and the froth. I think it turned out pretty decently. Going around the guy there. Got our different umbrellas, different styles. This person likes the polka dots. All the different colors that you tend to see at the beach when it comes to towels, bathing suits, umbrellas, everything along those lines. The last thing you really need to do is just kind of glue in the rest of those people who are just laying down over there. Everyone else is a sitter. But I'll have to glue those people down, so that'll be the last thing that I will do. But yeah, I think it turned out pretty decently. This guy's swimming here. Get the water covering him. Got the wave right here, little wave coming in. I think I'll probably fill that in right there, so going all the way across. Look at it from this side. It looks pretty decent. So that is my beach scene. I think it turned out pretty well. It's not perfect. There are some things that I wish I would have done better, but that's okay. It's always a learning experience, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. So thank you everyone for watching this video, for sticking it out for all this time. Stay tuned for some train videos with the beach in the foreground. Yeah, it looks good at the level. Looks good at level, I think. Just like this here. Alright everyone, well thank you again for watching this tutorial / me making a lot of mistakes video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day. This is Priest Brothers Lines, signing off.